Hello, since we've missed a lot, today is going to be the December 14th, 15th, and 16th Advent calendar. So, for December 14th, 15th, and 16th, there are a total of 6 names. The December 14th has 2 names, and so does December 15th and December 16th. For December 14th, the first scripture for the first name is Doctrine and Covenants, chapter 61, verse 1. And it says, "Behold and hearken unto the voice of him who has all power, who is from everlasting to everlasting, even Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end." So we have read that scripture before, but it's a different name than before. And you can take a minute to pause the video and read through the scripture, rewind, or just think about what I said, and just think about that scripture and what the name might have been. It is different from the last time we read that scripture, because the name for that one is the one who has all the power. The one who has all power. For the second name, it has to do with the scripture, Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6, and we have read this one too. There are a lot of names for this one scripture, so it might be tricky. It is not the one that we used last time, which I believe was Counselor. Yep, Counselor. Yeah, it was Counselor for last time, so it is not Counselor this time. It is a different name. So I'm going to read through it, and it says, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, unto the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the everlasting Father, and the Prince of Peace." So, like I said before, there are a lot of names for that scripture. So I'm just going to tell you right away, but you can pause the video if you'd like. The name for that scripture was Mighty God. Now on to December 15th. For December 15th, there is also 2 scriptures. The first scripture is Isaiah chapter 17, verse 10. And that says, "Because thou hast forgotten the God of thy salvation, and hast not been mindful of the rock of thy strength, therefore shalt thou plant pleasure plants, and shalt set it with strange slips." That one had a couple of names, like 1 or 2, so you can pause the video, rewind, or rewind just to try and guess, and the name for that scripture was Rock of Strength. The name for the next scripture is similar. It is very similar actually, but it's in a different book. It's in Jacob chapter 7, verse 25, and that says, "Wherefore the people of Nephi did fortify against them with their arms, and with all their might, trusting in God, the rock of their salvation, wherever they became as yet conquerors of the enemies." So like I said, the name is similar to the one that we just read in Isaiah. The name for that scripture was Rock of Salvation. Now on to December 16th. For December 16th, there are also 2 names, and the first scripture is Doctrine and Covenants, chapter 128, verse 22. And it's kind of a long one, so you can follow along if you like. It says, "Brethren, shall we not go on in so great a cause, go forward and not backward? Courage, brethren, and on to the victory. Let your hearts rejoice and be exceedingly glad. Let the earth break forth into singing. Let the dead speak forth anthems of eternal praise to the King Emmanuel, who hath ordained before the world was that which would enable us to redeem them out of their prison, for the prisoners shall go free." That one was kind of long, so Make sure if you didn't understand to rewind or read it yourself. You can search it up on the internet too. That's what I've been doing. The name for that scripture was one that I haven't heard very often, but you can pause and try and think, but it was King Emmanuel. The next and last scripture for December 16th is Psalms chapter 80 verse 1, and it's only one sentence long, so I'll read it over twice. It says, "Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, thou that leadest Joseph like a flock, thou that dwellest between cherubims, shine forth. Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, thou that leadest Joseph like a flock, thou that dwelleth between the cherubims, shine forth." So that's Psalms 80, chapter 80, verse 1. You can take a minute to pause the video, rewind it, or look it up in your own scriptures or on the internet. But the name for that scripture was Shepherd of Israel. I hope you enjoyed and were able to guess some of the names for the December 14th, 15th, and 16th Advent calendars.